everyone! So today's video might be a little bit of a controversial one because today we're going to be trying out a brand that actually reached out to me quite a long time ago. I've talked about this in a previous video. If you want to see that, I'll link it up in the corner. But basically this brand reached out to me and they sent me an email asking to do a positive review in turn for money, and obviously I turned that down because I just think that that is so wrong and not something that I would ever want to do, because I pride myself on being very honest in my reviews, and so I would never sell my trust that you guys have in me in turn for money. Like, that is just not something that I feel comfortable with. So this brand reached out to me again saying that actually they saw my video and they would like to apologize. So before we get into the video, I would like to read you the email that I did receive from them, because I want you to see how they worded things and just so you can get an idea of how they feel about the situation, and I want you guys to make up your own decision on how you feel about this. So the email says, "Hello Annette, we truly apologize if you received the wrong impression about our brand. We are a new company and is continuously learning the ropes on marketing. We requested positive reviews on our brand because negative reviews on a new brand can be detrimental. We are extremely confident in all our products but try to avoid any negativity. We understand that some people make a living from YouTube and promoting products, so we felt it was only fair to pay them for their time and our exposure. Now we ask for only honest reviews. We would like to send you our Remedy eyeshadow palette and new matte lipstick. We do our very best to make sure everyone that come across our brand is satisfied, and we take all feedback into consideration." So I actually think that this email was pretty well written, and I'm a firm believer in giving people a second chance if I feel like they deserve it. And honestly, I can kind of see where the brand is coming from, because I feel like if you're a startup brand, of course you don't want anything bad to be said about your brand, but I also of course think it's absolutely ridiculous to be paying influencers when you don't really know like how us influencers are being treated, and that brands that do this is the reason why people don't trust us as influencers. And I think it's very important for brand to understand this. So I think that me doing this video and kind of shedding light on this is important. But like I said, I also am a firm believer in giving people and brands a second chance, and I really do believe that this brand is genuine in their apologies. So today we are going to be trying out the By Stony Remedy eyeshadow palette, and honestly I'm really excited about this because this is a beautiful palette. So here's what the palette looks like, and this is the color story. So it's very much like a fall appropriate palette. It's got some neutrals, but it's got some really beautiful mattes and shimmers as well, and I'm honestly like pretty excited about this. And they also sent me a lipstick, so let me go ahead and open this. It says it's the Sweetie Lip Addiction. So this looks to be kind of like a mauvey reddish brown or something like that. So here's what the color looks like. I'm actually going to go ahead and put that on so we can see kind of how it wears throughout the video. Doesn't have too much of a scent. It's definitely, it just smells like lipstick. Like, it definitely has a bit of like a chemically scent to it, but not in like a bad way. It just smells like a lipstick, if you know what I mean. So I would say that the formula is definitely more on like the kind of thick moussey side, but it does feel very comfortable. And I like how it's looking on the lips. It's not looking overly drying, and it's also not looking very thick, which I really do like, and I also really like the color. So I'm gonna keep this on, and then we'll see how it wears throughout the video. So I'll probably be able to keep this on for like, I don't know, 45 minutes until I'm done filming the eye look with this. So I think we should go ahead and swatch this palette as well. So this eyeshadow palette costs $15, which is very inexpensive for the amount of shadows in there. And it says it has 12 shades of highly pigmented, long-lasting, creamy mattes and metallic finishes. Give yourself a seductive smoky eye, or go simple yet sexy, paraben-free, cruelty-free, and vegan. It does have the ingredient list on the website if you're interested in learning more about this palette or the brand. I will have the site linked down below if you want to go check it out. As for how this palette swatched, I thought that it swatched actually really well. Some of the mattes needed some building up, but that could also be said for Juvia's Place, and I love Juvia's Place's formula, so that doesn't really mean anything. I thought that the shimmers looked absolutely beautiful. I'm really excited to try this on my eyes. I honestly have pretty high expectations for this palette, so let's go ahead and prime. I'm going to use my Natasha Denona eyeshadow primer like I have been lately. So I'm wiping off my swatches, and there's definitely a little bit of staining left with the pink, so I would imagine the pink is probably going to stain the eyes. Just wanted to throw that out there in case staining is something that bothers you. I don't really personally care for staining, so that is not really an issue. So let's see, what do I want to do today? This palette also does have a mirror, by the way, which is quite a nice mirror. And I want to try to use a lot of shades today, so I'm first going to go into Jungle, and I think I'm going to go ahead and put that in the first part of my crease here. And then I'm going to go into Plum, which is the dark purple, and then I'm going to use Wine on the outer corner of my eye. I think that's how I want to do it, or I should say the outer crease part of my eye or something like that. I don't really know where I'm going with this, but let's just try it anyway. So I'm going to go ahead and start by packing this in the inner portion of my crease here. And that looks to be very nice and pigmented. I would love to hear you guys' opinion on me doing this video. Do you think that I shouldn't have done this? Do you think I shouldn't accept this palette? Let me know your thoughts, because like I said in the intro, like I really do feel like everyone deserves a second chance, especially as a new brand who is admitting to, you know, their mistakes. And I did feel like it came across as pretty genuine, and I also did have, you know, other emails going back and forth with them, and they seemed very open to just changing their ways and behaviors and being more accommodating to us as influencers, and just like seeing where we come from instead of just worrying about, like, you know, their own brand and how they could make the most money. And I think that's a really important point. So that laid out absolutely beautifully, if I can say so myself. I'm next gonna dip into Plum, which I said was the dark purple in this palette. And I will say I really like the way that they have the names on these. I like that they're in silver, but it's a very small font and it's just right underneath the shadow. It makes it very, very easy to see them. And the background is also not distracting from like the colors in the palette. So I'm gonna go ahead and place this in the middle of my crease here. Now normally I would use like the darkest shade in my outer corner of my eye, but I just felt like doing something a bit different today. And again, this shadow is also very pigmented. Just going to blend that into the green here. Alright, I am extremely impressed with this shadow. I think that laid down so beautifully, and it felt like a very buildable purple. And I feel like I can tell by now, just from like putting down a shadow, how it's going to perform if you do go in and start layering and building on it. And I really do feel like this would be a good purple. So I'm next gonna go into Wine, which is basically the color of my hair. And I'm gonna be putting that in the outer part of my crease here. And this is the one shadow in this palette that I felt like swatched the worst probably, so I'm expecting to have to build this up a little bit, but as long as it builds, that's not really an issue at all. And it could also be because this one seems to be a little tighter pressed into the pan than the other ones did, but I mean, it's going on the eye very, very nicely here. So I'm not really sure like exactly where I'm trying to go with this, if I'm being completely honest, but I think what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go ahead and wing this out quite a bit. And then I'll also pull this down to my lower lash line here and just kind of connect it. And I might just take the same shadows and do the same thing on my lower lash line. I don't really know. I do want to use a lot of shadows though, so maybe I'll just make this into like a super crazy look. I don't really know yet, but we'll just kind of take it as it goes and see where we end up. And I think I was very right in that this shadow needed quite a bit of building up, but it does build very nicely, so I can't really say anything bad about this, except that it's just going to take a little bit longer to work with. But I know a lot of you guys like shadows that are more on the buildable side, so this could definitely be a formula that I feel like a lot of people would really like. Should I go in with Spice, which is the orange? I feel like I should, just to try another shadow. So I'm gonna take the orange here and just put that on the rest of my lower lash line. And I think I'm gonna go ahead and do a half cut crease here, just because I do have the darkest shade in the middle of my eye, and I just feel like it's going to come together a little bit more if I do it that way. So I'm gonna take my P. Louise base and I'm gonna do a half cut crease. Just gonna go in with a bit more of that kind of magenta shade that I have in my outer corner here, just to make sure that I get the transition good in between the mattes and the cut crease. So I have no idea where my camera shut off, but I'm currently putting down the pink shimmer in this palette, which was called Gift. And I'm just putting that in the outer corner of my eye. And then I'll probably use 2 more shimmers here just so I can, you know, try out as many of these colors as possible. This is going on the eye very nicely. It's not like a super intense shimmer by any means. And it's definitely the kind of shadow that is going to blend into mattes very easily. Alright, next up I'm going to go into, I guess, one of the 2 golds. I didn't really look to see what was left here, but I basically have these 2 golds left. So I'm first going to go into the brightest of them, which is called Golden. That's a very appropriate name for the shadow. Just going to place that in the middle of my lid here, and that's really pretty. I actually do quite love me a good gold eyeshadow, because I feel like gold just goes with everything, you know, because it's a neutral, at least in my eyes. Just going to mix that over the pink. And I'm also going to take a little bit of this down to my lower lash line, just above that orange that I put down in the inner part. And then I'm going to take some of the lighter golds right in my inner corner. I'm actually going to take this in a little bit further on top here as well. I don't want too much of that lighter shade, just a little bit. And then to finish off with the shadows, I'm going to take Chemistry here. And I'm just going to pop that where I don't have any shadow yet. So this is where I want to leave it with the shadow. I actually think that this look turned out really fun. I'm of course going to finish off my eyes just by putting on some liner mascara and stuff, and then I'll come back and we can talk a little bit more about how I felt about the performance of the palette, how I feel like the lipstick is wearing, and all that jazz. So I will be right back. Alright, so here is the look all done. I think this came together very nicely. For my waterline, I used the eyeliner in the shade Prance from Colourpop. Just a blue. I don't know, I just felt like it would make a nice contrast to all of the warm tones that I have on my lower lash line, and I quite like how this turned out. So as for the performance of everything, the lipstick has definitely dried down. It's a very matte finish, but it still feels very comfortable on my lips, and I don't feel like it's doing any weird things. So far I would say that I really like this, and I also really like the color of this. I don't know if I necessarily have a dupe for this color, so I think they made a good choice sending this my way. So as for the palette, honestly, for $15, I think this is a fantastic palette. I think the quality of this is really, really nice. I thought that the mattes were very easy to work with. Some needed a little bit of building up, but I think that is something that a lot of people really like. So I honestly have nothing bad to say about this palette, and I wasn't sure at all what to expect, but I'm happy to report back and say that I really like this palette. I think this palette is great. I even really like the packaging that this comes in. It's very nice and sleek, and it feels nice in your hands. So yeah, I mean, I'm honestly kind of surprised because I really like this. So let me know your thoughts. I would love to know how you guys feel about this whole thing. Obviously, I decided to give this brand a second chance, and if you wouldn't have done that, that is totally fair too, and I absolutely respect your opinion. Leave your comments down below. I would love to read about especially this situation right here, because this is something that I feel like a lot of people might have something to say about, and maybe someone might have different opinions than me, and I would love to hear them. So that's gonna be it for today's video. If you want to see some other first impression videos that I've done, I'll pop a few up on the screen. And if you're new to my channel, I would love it if you would consider subscribing, and I will see you in my next one. Bye.